What's the most terrifying person you've ever met in college? One netizen replied, my mentor called and said his friend's son had committed a crime and asked me to take care of it. When I got the case file, I was shocked. It was a case of rape and murder, and the victim was bludgeoned to death with a dumbbell. Murder for murder. The death penalty was inevitable. How could I help with that? The mentor laughed. What's there not to help with? Just follow my instructions. During the trial, I felt that the perpetrator deserved to die. The suspect's name was Alji, a university student who was 5'3" and weighed 200 pounds, with a face full of acne. Due to his unattractive appearance, Alji had a tough time on campus. In his own words, I feel like all the girls looked down on me. Coming from a wealthy family, with high-ranking officials as parents, Alji had developed an extremely arrogant personality due to his privileged upbringing. However, the girls in college tended to be more emotional and did not prioritize material conditions as much, which frustrated Alji greatly. I believe if Alji was willing to spend money, there would be girls who would cater to his desires, but he particularly despised materialistic girls. He said he was seeking pure love, thus he targeted female classmates, and he only chose virgins as his victims. How do you know the victims are virgins? I asked. Alji proudly replied, I have a talent. I can tell if a girl is a virgin just by sniffing, though scientifically unfounded. The fact was that the 3 victims he assaulted were indeed virgins. I asked why he specifically targeted virgins. Alji explained that defiling virgins satisfied his mental cleanliness, and virgins cared more about their reputation and were less likely to report assault. Initially, Alji didn't dare to rape and opted for molestation. Instead, he would follow girls, studying for their Set-4 and Set-6 English exams, as they often chose secluded places to memorize vocabulary, which provided the perfect setting for his crimes. The only issue was that Alji's physique was highly recognizable, and even if he covered his face, it would be easy for the victims to identify him. He didn't want to go to jail. Therefore, he always blindfolded his victims, buying a special head cover that only exposed the mouth. The first victim was a freshman girl. Alji attacked her from behind, dragged her into the woods, and molested her. Being his first offense, Alji was very nervous. He only groped her chest and buttocks before fleeing, the whole incident lasting less than a minute. As expected, the victim chose to remain silent, boosting Alji's confidence. The next day, Alji molested a junior girl just 50 meters from the previous crime scene. This time, he used his tongue to assault the victim. However, the victim was going through a breakup and feared the assault would drive her boyfriend away, so she also chose to remain silent. These 2 successful attempts gave Alji a dangerous sense of invincibility. Girls are timid. As long as I scare them, these proud girls will submit to me. With these successes, Alji's courage grew. He was no longer satisfied with molestation and decided to go deeper. Reflecting on his crime details, he realized that outdoor settings had too many uncontrollable factors, and indoor environments would be more convenient for his actions. Thus, Alji began targeting girls attending evening self-study sessions, specifically choosing classrooms near the toilets and observing from the back row. To be honest, Alji was dissatisfied with his first 2 victims because he found them too ugly and felt he was shortchanged. This time, he decided to raise his standards and carefully selected his prey. After a month of meticulous selection, he found his dream target, Chang Yu, a second-year student. Chang Yu came from a single-parent family, with her father being a coppersmith. Inspired by her father, her biggest dream was to study in France and become a bronze sculpture artist. Chang Yu was 5'7", with excellent appearance and temperament, but she always appeared without makeup, had no boyfriend, and rarely socialized with classmates. On one hand, she needed to save money. On the other, she wanted to pass the French exam as soon as possible to get a study visa upon graduation. But fate struck this girl unexpectedly. The first time Alji saw Chang Yu, he was captivated by this pure girl. He asked for Chang Yu's contact information, but she politely refused. As usual, Alji felt that Chang Yu looked down on him, so he fantasized, if I ruin Chang Yu, she will have no choice but to consider dating me. Alji patiently waited for the right moment. When Chang Yu got up to go to the restroom, he knew his chance had come, so he grabbed his backpack and quietly followed her. What was in your backpack? I asked. Alji hesitated for a moment. A mask, handcuffs, tape, and a dumbbell. Why did you bring a dumbbell? Because I work out often. Lied, but I didn't point it out and let him continue. Alji followed Chang Yu into the women's restroom, locked the door, wedged a book in the gap to keep it fixed, and then quietly turned off the lights. Chang Yu, who was in a stall, thought it was the cleaning lady and shouted, "Auntie, someone's here. Don't turn off the lights." She finished just in her skirt and was about to leave when Alji attacked her. However, Chang Yu did not go down easily. Although a girl, she had learned Taekwondo and had a height advantage. She kicked Alji hard, making him yell in pain. Chang Yu ran to the door but couldn't get out because it was jammed. Aoji, having recovered, chased after her, slammed her head against the wall, and knocked her out. Then he dragged her by the hair back into the stall. I took out the handcuffs and cuffed her hands to the water pipe, then put a mask over her eyes. Were the cuffs on front or back? What? Was Chang Yu facing you or turned away? When she was handcuffed, she was facing me. No, she was turned away. Lies again. The police report stated the deceased was facing forward. During the struggle, the mask accidentally slipped off. The perpetrator, fearing exposure, panicked and repeatedly struck the victim's head with a dumbbell, causing cranial deformation and instant death. This was a crime of passion, but the autopsy report said the deceased had numerous injuries on both the inside and outside of her wrists. If Chang Yu had been facing forward with her hands cuffed behind her back, the cuts should have been on the back of her hands, not her palms. So, Aoji must have had her turned away initially, assaulting her from behind, and the wounds on her palms were from struggling. But if Chang Yu was turned away, even if the mask slipped off, she wouldn't have been able to see Aoji's face. So why did he have to kill her, going so far as to smash her head with a dumbbell? During the recess, I discussed the case with several colleagues. Interestingly, everyone avoided talking about the details of the case, focusing instead on Aoji's virtues. He's only 19 and a university student. He turned himself in and has a good attitude. He committed the crime out of inferiority. Everyone seemed inclined to give Aoji a suspended death sentence, but didn't dare to say it outright. Last night, my mentor told me that he had already made arrangements for the case to be judged as a suspended death sentence, and the prosecutor's office would not appeal. Indeed, from a legal perspective, a suspended death sentence wasn't an issue. It gave an explanation to the leaders and the general public. But would the victim's family accept it? I hadn't met Chang Yu's father yet. The trial wasn't public due to the case's severe impact, but also because the leaders feared the family would cause trouble. After all, it was the killer of his daughter. My phone rang. It was my mentor. I hurried to the restroom to answer. Is it about time for the verdict? I hesitated for a moment. I still think the suspended death sentence isn't appropriate. My mentor sounded a bit angry. Why not? Crime of passion. Turned himself in. Good attitude. Every factor supports a reduced sentence. Do I need to teach you? But, no buts. We all make our own choices. If you don't take the golden path, I point out. Don't blame me later. He hung up with a bang. I sighed. What choice did I have? Wasn't my own livelihood more important than justice? After the trial resumed, I sentenced Aoji to a suspended death sentence, and everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief. Aoji beamed with joy and couldn't help but say, "Thank you." I wanted to crawl into a hole. A few days later, an unexpected visitor appeared outside the court. Chang Yu's father, Chang Bing. He knelt in front of the court, holding a picture of his daughter, with a white banner behind him, the words written in blood, "Please sentence the murderer to death." Many people gathered to take photos. The leaders, fearing negative impact, repeatedly sent bailiffs with loudspeakers to disperse the crowd. The onlookers didn't want trouble and left, but Chang Bing refused to leave. So the leaders called me. "Clean up your own mess. If this goes viral, see how I deal with you." I had no choice but to put on a coat and drag my tired legs to meet Chang Bing. I identified myself, and he knelt down with a thud. "Sir, I dreamed of my daughter again last night," she said. "She died too horribly to reincarnate. Please, give her justice." Chang Bing was very tall, nearly 6'3". His hands were rough and scarred with burns, likely from his work as a coppersmith. But this ironclad man cried. I sighed and pulled out a well-worn set of arguments. Kneeling here to plead with me is useless. What you need to do is hire a lawyer to pursue legal channels. I can't help you. Only the law can. My face burned with shame as I spoke. I knew too well that the law couldn't help this poor man. 2 weeks later, Chang Bing disappeared. I thought the matter had blown over. My mentor came to Shijin personally and booked a private room at the most luxurious hotel in the area. He invited a few classmates, all prominent figures in the legal system. My mentor patted my shoulder, handed me a shot glass, and said, "This is my best student. You have to respect that." I was flattered and gulped down the drink, my face turning red. After the drink, we played a few rounds of cards. I went to the bank to withdraw 10,000 yuan in cash. "You did a great job this time." "Second brother, 30,000. "Thank you." "Mentor, what's the next step?" 30,000 who? Pure sequence. Haha, you'll have to spend more tonight. I took out 3,000 yuan from my pocket. Most of the 10,000 was already gone. I've arranged everything. He'll spend a few years in jail to teach the brat a lesson. What a disgrace, not knowing how to save his parents from worry. From my mentor's tone, it seemed like he was scolding a mischievous child, not a murderer. But what about Chang Yu? What did she do wrong? At that moment, I felt lost, and my mentor caught on quickly. Your judgment was flawless. The death penalty is an outdated and barbaric concept in this day and age. Who still believes in an eye for an eye? Look at the developed countries who still has the death penalty. If you ask me, that girl didn't understand. Her hands were already cuffed, yet she still resisted. Isn't that just asking for death? Is chastity so important? My mentor spoke animatedly, and two leaders smiled and agreed. No, you're wrong. I couldn't help but stand up, and my mentor was taken aback. Chen, you didn't resist. The wounds on her wrists weren't from resisting rape. My mentor was momentarily speechless, glaring at me with disdain. You're drunk. Go sober up. You have work tomorrow. I stumbled out of the tea house, my mind racing with images of Aoji's crime. Chen, you wouldn't have resisted. She and her father depended on each other. She knew how much her life meant. So why did Aoji have to kill her? Unconsciously, I heard footsteps behind me. When I stopped, they stopped. When I walked, they walked. I was being followed. I didn't know who it was. After all, I handled nearly 500 cases a year. There were plenty of people unhappy with me. I started running, and the person chased after me. In a panic, I ducked into an alley, looking for a place to hide. I found a blue trash can, smelling of leftover food. I didn't have time to be picky. I emptied the trash and turned the can over, hiding under it, holding my breath. The footsteps approached and then faded away. I waited another 15 minutes before lifting the trash can. Suddenly, there was a rush of wind, and I felt a heavy blow to the back of my head. I passed out, and when I woke up, I was tied up with tape over my eyes and mouth. Someone approached, grabbed my collar, and slapped me twice. The rough, scaly feel of their hand told me who it was. I struggled to get the tape off my mouth and shouted, "You're Chen Bing, right?" Chen Bing stopped, his voice hoarse. "How did you know?" "Your hands, they have burn marks, probably from casting bronze." "Right." Chen Bing seemed deflated, pulling off the tape from my eyes and sitting in front of me. I asked him what he wanted and why he kidnapped me. Chen Bing licked his dry, cracked lips, staring at me with bloodshot eyes. "I want that beast dead." I regretfully told him it was impossible. Aoji was in custody, protected by countless police. Even if Chen Bing wanted revenge, it was impossible. Even if Chen Bing caused a scene, the prosecutor and the court would ignore him. Reopening a case would jeopardize many careers. No one would help him. I used every argument to explain, but Chen Bing wouldn't listen. He lunged at me, choking my neck, shouting, "That beast destroyed everything. You understand? And you're an accomplice." I could understand Chen Bing's pain, losing his beloved daughter. His anger had no outlet. He needed a target, and he chose me because I failed him. Chen Bing wasn't educated. Explaining humanitarianism or the uselessness of the death penalty wouldn't work. He had the simplest moral view. An eye for an eye. A debt paid in blood. I struggled wildly, but Chen Bing's fingers were like stone, unmovable. That intense suffocation pressed on my brain. In a life or death moment, I mustered all my strength and kicked Chen Bing's groin, forcing him to let go. I broke free and ran for my life. Chen Bing chased after me, but suddenly, he fell hard, motionless. I ran a few more steps, stopped, and cautiously returned. Chen Bing's eyes were rolled back, and blood gushed from his nose. In such cases, it's usually a brain hemorrhage causing unconsciousness. Given his high blood pressure and sleepless nights after his daughter's death, his body was on the verge of collapse. If left unattended, Chen Bing would die. I had no obligation to save him. If he died, my troubles would end. Even if I saved him, would Chen Bing appreciate it? Would he spare me? Chen Bing started convulsing, in critical condition. I did my lep, called 911 and performed CPR. Doctors worked overnight to save Chen Bing. They said if it had been a few minutes later, Chen Bing might have become a vegetable. I felt conflicted. Entering the ward, Chen Bing lay in a hospital gown, staring at me with eyes full of anger. "I saved your life. Besides, if you're bedridden, how will you avenge your daughter?" Hearing this, Chen Bing's clenched fist slowly relaxed, eyes full of sorrow. Seeing no one around, I whispered, "To get revenge, how far are you willing to go?" Chen Bing's eyes widened, and he firmly replied, "Whatever it takes. In that case, I might be able to help you." I told Chen Bing that Aoji's family would soon contact him for compensation. Don't resist or refuse. Ask for as much money as possible. The greedier, the better. Chen Bing was puzzled. I explained, Chen Yu's case will be forgotten over time. If Aoji's parents want to bail him out, they will bribe you. The more money you demand, the less cautious they will be. Sure enough, soon after, Aoji's lawyer contacted Chen Bing, saying he could fill in any amount on the invoice, as long as he let bygones be bygones. Chen Bing, who had never seen so much money, wrote down his daughter's birthday, demanding over 2 million yuan, which the lawyer immediately paid. Then, I told Chen Bing to move, creating the illusion of running away. With no worries, Aoji's family began working on his release. Using the usual medical parole tactics, they fabricated documents for monkeypox, a disease the prison hospital wouldn't handle due to the risk of spreading through inmate homosexual activities. Aoji's family spared no expense, pushing through the nearly impossible medical parole, quickly obtaining approval. The final step was my signature. Aoji's family, still wary, had my mentor call me. Once this is settled, come to my villa in Haihua Island next month. I'll introduce you to a partner. I chuckled and signed the approval. Honestly, if Aoji had served his sentence sincerely, I might not have helped Chanbin, but he exploited legal loopholes, treating the system as a joke, using money to challenge justice, giving me no reason to let him go. After Aoji was released, his parents found a substitute to stay in the hospital and gave him a new identity, preparing to send him to Japan for school. Having suffered in prison for 2 years, Aoji couldn't resist sneaking out, despite his parents' strict orders to stay in until his visa was ready. Unbeknownst to him, Changbing had been renting a place near Aoji's house for 2 years, monitoring him with a telescope to see if the murderer of his daughter was roaming free. So, when Aoji ventured out, Changbing followed and kidnapped him. Changbing then called me to his bronze workshop. When I arrived, I saw Aoji trembling in a metal cage. Changbing, in thick protective gear, was tossing copper ingots into a furnace, turning them into bubbling liquid. I didn't know what Changbing planned, nor did I ask. I only wanted to know one thing. Squatting before Aoji, I looked him in the eyes and asked, "Why did you kill Chen Yu?" Aoji screamed, "Because she saw my face. I had no choice." Life. Aoji flinched, because she resisted too much, and I couldn't control her. So I life. Aoji's pupils suddenly dilated as if deflated. After I tied Chen Yu up, she stopped resisting. She said, "No matter what I wanted to do, please don't hurt her. Her father had only her." She didn't want him to be sad. However, Chen Yu's compliance made Aoji lose interest. He was shocked to realize that what he craved wasn't sex. He craved the thrill of watching women struggle in pain. No, he probably always knew, which was why he carried it with the dumbbell in his backpack. "Why didn't you kill her from behind?" Aoji licked his lips. "Because I wanted to see the light in her eyes go out." The truth finally came to light. The only question was, how should we deal with Aoji? I tried to persuade Chanbin, if we hand Aoji over to the police and submit additional evidence, even if it doesn't get the death penalty, he could rot in prison, where plenty of scum would make his life hell. In my view, it wasn't worth ruining one's life for scum like Aoji. Changbing had already suffered immensely. I didn't want this poor man to pay any more. Changbing stubbornly shook his head and asked me a question. "What do you think is the meaning of the death penalty?" To be honest, this question was a bit offensive. After all, I was professionally trained. The purpose of the death penalty is to punish the criminal and bring solace to the victim's family. Changbing shook his head. "I think the purpose of the death penalty is to prevent other girls from suffering the same fate as my daughter, to prevent other fathers from enduring my pain. Even if Aoji is imprisoned, by the time he's released, he will still have the capacity to harm others. If the law can punish him, then I will kill him." I sighed, and Changbing gave a sad smile. He brought out a bronze statue of his daughter, Chen Yu. It was incredibly detailed, with a shy yet dreamy smile, lifelike in every aspect. Seeing the statue, Aoji started trembling and knelt down, kowtowing repeatedly, crying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Changbing used a sedative to knock Aoji unconscious, then stuffed him into the statue's base, which had a small space just big enough to feed him. After that, Changbing took the molten copper from the furnace and slowly poured it into the statue through a vent at the top. Screams and the stench of melting flesh filled the air. I kept a close eye on Changbing's expression. He showed neither the satisfaction of revenge nor the thrill of killing. He just gently gazed at his daughter's face, as if expecting the statue to respond. After the seventh pour, the screams finally stopped. Suddenly, 2 streams of blood tears flowed from the statue's eyes, dripping to the ground. Changbing hugged the statue, crying like a child. After killing Aoji, Changbing fled. He couldn't take the statue with him, so he left it there, along with the body inside, now fully cooked by the molten copper. Ironically, when Aoji's parents discovered his disappearance, they didn't dare report it. After all, if the police found out they helped their son escape, they would end up in jail before they even found Aoji. But the Ao family had connections and soon found out that Changbing had kidnapped Aoji. They informed my mentor, who immediately called me. "Do you have anything to do with this?" I denied it categorically. "I'm giving you a chance. The Ao family is desperate to find their son. If you can provide Aoji's whereabouts, it will be a great merit." "I really don't know. This has nothing to do with me." My mentor was silent for a moment, then told me to go to Changbing's workshop immediately. I didn't want to, but fearing exposure, I reluctantly went. Changbing had locked the door with a large padlock, which had been cut with bolt cutters. Aoji's father had brought workers to dig up the floor and scrape the walls, almost demolishing the place, but they found nothing. Aoji's mother was crying, muttering, "That bastard, if he dares hurt my son, I'll tear him apart." I couldn't help but glance at Chen Yu's statue. It was the only thing they hadn't inspected thoroughly. My mentor walked up to the statue and knocked on it. Solid. That's strange. Statues are usually hollow. I felt nervous. Aoji was only missing, so they had called the police. But if a body was found, a warrant would be issued for Chen Bing's arrest, and I might be implicated. But I couldn't expose my involvement. My mentor was sharp and already suspicious. I had to be cautious. Aoji's father ordered the workers to cut off the statue's head. I couldn't help but protest. That's not right. What's not right? She's the spirit of your son's victim. Aren't you afraid of? My mentor sneered. What's there to fear? Even if she becomes a ghost, she's just a little girl. Aoji's father agreed and ordered the workers to bring an electric saw and start cutting the statue's neck. Chen Bing's craftsmanship was excellent, and the statue was solidly built. The workers spent a long time and went through several saw blades before making a cut. Then, something very strange happened. Chen Yu's statue spoke. No, it was a low, threatening voice, like the wind. Everyone was starved, and the workers refused to continue, saying it wasn't worth risking their lives for a few bucks. Aoji's parents were pale. As the saying goes, the guilty are the most afraid. They were very nervous. Only my mentor kept his composure, suspecting that the statue's sound indicated something inside. But Aoji's parents had already backed off. Forget it. The workers won't do it, and we can't do anything with this bronze lump. I hoped Chen Bing could escape, start a new life abroad, far from trouble. He had enough money and skills to make a new life, maybe even become a father again. But this hope was too idealistic. A few months later, my mentor called to say Chen Bing had been caught. I was stunned by the police. My mentor mocked. Of course not. He was too stupid and fell into the trap. Aoji's family had deliberately vandalized Chen Yu's grave, and Chen Bing fell for it. My mentor told me where Chen Bing was held, a villa in the suburbs, and I drove there immediately. In a dimly lit garage, I saw Chen Bing tied to a chair, being tortured by two men. They had no intention of letting him live, using various methods to inflict pain. Chen Bing's left eye was swollen shut, his face bloody, 7 of his 10 fingernails ripped off, and a spring knife stuck in his right thigh. One man grabbed the knife and slowly twisted it in Chen Bing's flesh, causing maximum pain. Chen Bing screamed, "Kill me! Kill me!" I wanted to call the police, but my phone had been taken. They surrounded me, ensuring I couldn't escape. Aoji's father was certain I helped Chen Bing and brought me here for confirmation. He approached Chen Bing and demanded, "Tell me the truth, and I'll give you a quick death." He pointed at me. "Do you know this man?" My heart pounded. Chen Bing glanced at me and sneered. "Isn't he that dog of a judge? Did he help you kidnap my son?" Chen Bing laughed maniacally. He did. Kill him." Aoji's father looked at me suspiciously. I admired Chen Bing. His response was clever. "Where's my son? Where did you hide his body?" Chen Bing proudly puffed out his chest. "I ate him. Yes, I drained his blood, salted his body, and packed him in a suitcase. I ate a piece every day." Chen Bing spoke with such conviction that even the interrogators frowned. "Fine, last question. Where's the 2 million we gave you?" "I checked your bank records. You neither saved nor spent it. Since you killed my son, you owe me that money." Chen Bing smirked. "I burned it. It's in hell. I'll return it to you when you die." Aoji's father didn't believe him, so Chen Bing changed his story. "The 2 million is hidden in the statue of my daughter. Cut it open and take it." Aoji's father believed him this time and ordered the statue brought in to cut the base. Chen Bing glanced at it and said, "It's solid. Using a saw will take forever. Bring oxygen and acetylene. It'll be faster." I immediately realized what Chen Bing was planning. Aoji's body had rotted for months, filling the statue with methane gas. Copper seal is better than concrete, trapping the gas inside, turning the statue into a huge gas cylinder. Chen Bing planned to go down with them. I quickly said to Aoji's father, "Since my suspicion is cleared, I have no reason to stay here." "Right." Aoji's father nodded. "I know your address. If I find out you talk, don't blame me." I interrupted. "Don't worry, I won't say a word." 2 men brought in the oxygen tanks. I ran without looking back until the flames engulfed everything. Firefighters dug out all the charred bodies from the rubble. One was so rotten and burned, they couldn't understand it. The knife in Chen Bing's thigh caught their attention, and they classified it as gang activity, leading to Aoji's mother's arrest. She was caught trying to flee the country with diamonds and gold bars. I wrote several reports, submitting them to the school, containing hard-earned evidence. They caused a stir, but soon settled, sinking like stones. My mentor called me out, mocking me with the reports. "You're too naive to fight me." I smiled bitterly. My mentor had his own mentors. My reports were useless against the intricate network. But why did I write them? Perhaps I still believed the law represented justice. "Aren't you afraid of retribution for all your misdeeds?" My mentor laughed. "Retribution? That's a poor man's dream. A mental victory. Those who kill and burn wear golden belts. Those who mend bridges and roads have no bodies. Show me a truly bad person who gets punished." He tore up the reports and threw the pieces in my face, leaving triumphantly. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the door. I rushed out to see my mentor lying on the ground, twitching. A dumbbell had fallen from nowhere, striking his head perfectly. The police arrived quickly and asked me what happened. I shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it's retribution." This is a short story, and it ends here. I update my stories daily, so if you like them, please subscribe.